Now, the Young's Literal Translation and the Complete Word Study Dictionary, New Testament, similarly acknowledge that multiple Sabbaths are intended here. Now, the wording of Mark 16:1 and 2 is confusing to some because it seems to suggest that the spices were purchased after the weekly Sabbath rather than before it, on Friday, However, this is explained by Luke 23:56, which clearly shows that the women bought the spices before and not after, the weekly Sabbath. And they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Mark did not mention this weekly Sabbath rest in his account, but Luke, who wrote his account of these events, later did. So some also stumble over, let's say, Mark 16:9, not taking into account that there is no punctuation indicated in the original Greek. Therefore, to be in harmony with the material presented in the other Gospels, a better translation would be this: Now having risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene. These verses are not saying that Jesus rose early on Sunday morning, but that he appeared early on Sunday morning to Mary Magdalene, having already risen sometime earlier. You see what I'm saying? So when we consider the details in all four gospel accounts, the picture, it actually is very clear. Jesus was crucified and entombed late on Wednesday afternoon, just before a Sabbath began at sunset. However, that was a high day Sabbath falling that year on the 5th day of the week, sunset Wednesday to sunset Thursday, rather than the weekly Sabbath, as we know, from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. He remained entombed from Wednesday at sunset until Saturday at sunset, having risen from the dead. Thus, when Mary Magdalene came to the tomb on Sunday morning before sunrise, while it was still dark, she found the stone rolled away and the tomb was empty. We can be assured that the duration of Christ's entombment before his resurrection, which he actually foretold as proof of his messiahship, was precisely as long as he said it would be, equaling the 3 days and the 3 nights Jonah was in the belly of the great fish, referred at Matthew 12:40. Thus, Jesus rose late Saturday afternoon around sunset, not Sunday at sunrise, which was exactly 3 days and 3 nights after he was placed in the tomb just before sunset on Wednesday. So Christ's prophecy of the time he would be in the tomb was fulfilled precisely. Because most people do not understand the biblical high days kept by Jesus Christ and his followers, they fail to understand the chronological details so accurately preserved for us actually in the Gospels. So as we have seen, Easter and its customs originated not from the Bible, but in pagan fertility rites. It is a curious mixture of ancient mythological practices and arbitrary dating that obscures and discredits the proof of Jesus Christ's messiahship and his resurrection. So, having learned the sources and the backgrounds of 2 major religious holidays, one might rightly wonder which days, if any, a Christian should actually observe. God and his word shows a better way of life with better days of worship that he has appointed for his people. You were just listening to Teachable Moments with April podcast. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. We invite you to stay connected with us on our other social media platforms: TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and now Rumble. You can also leave us feedback in 3 ways: in the Interact Features section on the Spotify app, voice messages to the podcast through our